On November 8th, 2021, Clover Health Systems is holding their earnings call. I began the research for this video with an idea to summarize all the amazing partnerships and deals that Clover Health Systems has set forth over the last quarter. But then something unusual happened. I noticed a link between Clover Health and crypto, specifically ANKR. Before we dive into the deep, let me share this brief note to our community. This video marks a special milestone in the channel's history. As of today, it is possible to reach all the wacky and unusual due diligence of this channel by just typing in youtube.com/unusual due diligence. I find that a special kind of awesome. The URL on the screen, that's a lot of work. I had a rough idea about the amount of work that YouTube personalities put into their channel, but now having done over 20 episodes, I get it. And I get why people keep up at it. It's the community, people like you, that have me coming back and doing more. I can only commit to being a better version of this channel with each and every video I do. So let's get at it. We began with a late night on the couch. While surfing Twitter, I happened to catch a thread of a story. It starts out with this post on the Clover Health Systems Twitter account. It reads, "Mark your calendar. Fierce Health Payers free virtual event is coming up on Tuesday, 10/26, and President Andrew Toy will be speaking about why we believe a broad network approach is critical to caring for the Medicare population. More info here, fiercehealthpayersummit.com." Now, if you caught my video on the curious connection with Andrew Toy writing and posting, well, about anything on LinkedIn, and how that is correlated to a price move, it caught my attention. Even more so, while I was looking at the current state of the Clove stock, I couldn't help but notice the implied volatility is ridiculously low moving into earnings, on top of being considered one of the top meme stocks of the infamous Wall Street Bets meme stock portfolio. That could be an opportunity, but just beware of Max Payne. Like clockwork, Clove has landed on the idealized Max Payne for just about every week I've watched it. So let's switch out of the charts and numbers and look at outcome and value. A moment ago, I explained that Andrew Toy is speaking out about something called a Fierce Health Payer Summit? So what is that, and why is this channel, Unusual Due Diligence, covering it? Well, it's a rabbit hole, and that's why you come here. Welcome to Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, and in this fresh episode, I am going to present to you a dotted line linking Clover Health Systems, which is a publicly traded healthcare technology company, and the cryptocurrency company known as ANKR. Let's dive in. The journey from Fierce Health Payer Summit began with a question. Now I asked myself, well, who is Fierce Health? After all, if we just take a surface level view of these things, we never find the treasures and bounty hidden in the depths of the sea. And so, in a little digging through the Fierce Health Summit conference materials, I found something very interesting. I discerned a way to link back from the Fierce event group to the root website of Fierce Health themselves, which is shown on the screen here. Fierce Health self-describes themselves. Well, let's just hear from them in the way they write it. Fierce Healthcare delivers healthcare news at the intersection of business and policy. Our journalists strive to bring our readers breaking industry news, exclusive interviews, and thoughtfully reported stories that offer a deeper insight on how changes in the industry impact their corner of the healthcare world. Our family of publications includes Fierce Healthcare, Fierce Health Payer, Fierce Health IT, Fierce Health Hospitals, Fierce Practice Management, and Fierce Health Finance. Whew, fierce. Okay. Only this is where the story begins. If you only stop at this point, which I can appreciate someone doing, that person is going to miss something rather, well, unusual. There's some unusual connections that I'm going to draw out. You see, if you swim even further under Fierce Healthcare, as shown on the screen here, in just a bit you'll notice the footer here of a website is for something called QuestX. So we went from a Fierce Health Payer Summit, which took us to Fierce Healthcare, which on the surface advertised itself as an event coordination group, and yet in the footer of this page there's something called QuestX. And if you're like me, at this point you're leaning in a bit more, realizing this is the beginning of an epic quest. Okay, so what's QuestX? Well, QuestX says this about itself. QuestX drives business forward through a rich engagement platform centered on leading events and surrounded by data insights and digital communities. To be frank, that just sounds like meaningless word salad to me. But clearly these people are connected fit in with a larger number of influential people across industries, so let me try to unpack the words. Consider this part: drives business forward. So what does that mean? Well, it's interesting to use the verb drive, because in Western civilization, that's loaded with the idea of driving a vehicle, say a boat or a submarine, or if you're a land dweller, a car. The idea here is driving the ship forward, not backward, which means there's destination in mind. Okay, so QuestX is in a sense Uber then, meaning if a business is a person, which the law says is true, then the business gets in the Uber driven by QuestX and drives forward to the destination. Okay, how? Well, even Uber has an app to help the driver and the passenger to get from point A to point B. QuestX has this to say: rich engagement platform centered on leading events. So for publicly traded companies, what does that mean? Well, public events for publicly traded companies are almost always material events to the underlying price of the stock. So QuestX is saying, hey, hop in the car. We're going to help drive you to your destination, and we'll pick up some chicken tenders along the way. But then this last section, this is also interesting, which is QuestX saying, and surrounded by data insights and digital communities. So there's no better community than those of you subscribed to this channel. I did need to mention that. Seriously, y'all are the best. The excitement I had when the channel was able to get a dedicated vanity URL of youtube.com/unusual due diligence. Oh man, so awesome. Back to the action. Quote, surrounded by data insights, end quote, means a lot of dashboards and analytics. I haven't explored just how good QuestX data insights are, but I would suggest that if it's literally their mission, that they must be interesting enough to capture the attention of high-level executives across multiple industry. And digital communities, that's rather interesting. There's real people there with real relationships, which is the real theme of this video because I'm going to present a rather unusual one. Okay, we are in pretty deep in the rabbit hole here, so let me recap what's going on so far. QuestX is the parent engagement events company that has another presence called Fierce Healthcare. Under Fierce Healthcare, that division is sponsoring an event called the Fierce Healthcare Payer Summit. There, Andrew Toy of Clover Health Systems was invited to give an executive presence to the gathering, and it's quite a gathering too. What's Andrew Toy speaking about specifically? Well, according to Twitter, Andrew Toy is speaking about why a broad network approach is specifically needed. So let's take a look here at the official event listing, and what do we see? According to the agenda for the conference, the actual speaking event is an interview with Andrew Toy, and the interview is being conducted by a Paige Menimayar. We'll just call her Paige. Paige has written many articles on Clover Health, but also on Clover's competitors. If you're familiar with Muckrack, you can see Paige covers quite a bit of ground. The article here about Clover's competitors being in some trouble, well, that's pretty interesting. However, there's a reason why Paige is a familiar name. But first, let's consider what we're looking at. We are looking at something interesting. News. So this brings up an interesting question. What is happening news-wise with Clover Health? Well, with earnings coming up in November, this is a good opportunity to take a holistic look at the storyline of Clover Health since the last earnings report. That last earnings report came out on August 11th of 2021. So let's take a look at what all has happened since then. We'll do that by just popping over to the news section on the Clover Health website. Oh, what's this? Are these articles about Clover Health? And yet they are titled Fierce Healthcare. And if we drill into this article titled Clover Health to Integrate Assistant Tool into Athena Health Electronic Medical Record, who wrote that? Look at this. Paige. To be clear, this isn't completely unexpected. People in an industry tend to be in a somewhat small circle. This is true everywhere. The world is a big and yet mysteriously small place. Just to give you an idea of how small, I'm going to link Clover Health now to the cryptocurrency ANKR in this video by way of very real human connections. Now, I go into more detail about the very specific link of ANKR to Mark Cuban in another video on the channel, and that'll be available in the description below. Having said that, let me explain to you the link as a quick recap or summary. The ANKR CEO, Ryan Fang, as seen here, is with the CEO of Polygon before the pandemic. That'll be important here in a minute. The ANKR cryptocurrency recently made headlines when it struck a deal with the NBA basketball team known as the Kings. In that deal, the broker relationship with ANKR was to do the following. Quote, through the partnership, the Kings and ANKR will produce educational content, host events, and create projects that showcase ways to support the growth of the blockchain industry. ANKR provides infrastructure and tooling that streamline development of blockchain-based applications. Now, the Kings are owned by a man by the name of Vivek, a completely different Vivek from Clover Health. That just happens to be a tidy coincidence, but perhaps so is the link I'm about to make for you. What's interesting about the NBA Kings deal is, well, quite a few things. You should check out my video on it. But the piece that's relevant here is that Vivek is connected to a man by the name of Mark Cuban, someone made famous in American investment circles for being, a very successful investor. One of Mark's major blockchain investments, Polygon. So the same blockchain solution that ANKR has a well-developed support for, that both CEOs were posing in the photo shown in that video here. So not only is ANKR connected to Kings and Polygon, but so is the King's owner, Vivek. But wait, there's more. On the 7th of October, Mark Cuban shows up in the headline. Mark Cuban-backed Otto raises $4.5 million. But buried inside the article is a very tasty tidbit that if you're not paying attention would have just sailed over at 100 knots. Here it is. Quote, Uncommon Capital led the startup, that's Otto's, seed financing, which included participation from Polygon Venture Partners, 1930 Capital, Bloom VP, and Space Cadet Ventures. And other investors include Mark Cuban, entrepreneur and Shark Tank investor, Leo Polovets, co-founder and general partner at Susa Ventures, Bill Clerico, co-founder and CEO of WePay, and Vivek Jarapali, co-founder and CEO of Clover Health. So you'd be completely right to say that just because Vivek of Clover Health invested in Otto doesn't mean that he and Mark Cuban are best buds forever. I'd be prone to agree with you, but I swam a little deeper into the sea. Together, we should note, and this is a key detail, that Vivek of Clover Health fame is intimately connected with Chamath, owner of the Golden State Warriors, and also the guy that's well known in the public media for being instrumental in taking Clover Health public via a SPAC maneuver. As I said earlier, it's a very small world. These two clearly text each other. What are they texting? Well, if I could loosely speculate, maybe one of them is saying something like, hey man, I just got picked up on by Unusual Due Diligence channel. We should send that guy a box of goodies. So setting aside imaginary text messages about the powerful and elite discussing their appearance on this channel, let me recap what we just experienced. At the top, you have NBA team owners with an interest in blockchain and public utility, investing their money and linking together key players in the crypto space, just also happen to rub shoulders with this healthcare technology company called Clover Health Systems. Now, I'm not saying Clover Health is adopting blockchain or crypto technology this year, but let me just say that if you're a person who likes to gamble, keep an eye out. At this point, the only thing that would make all this just incredible as if there were any hint whatsoever of blockchain experimentation at Clover Health Systems. And sure, if you look at the past history of their mid-level or senior engineering staff, there's all the right skill sets and training. However, a casual review of some usual places to find those hints doesn't bring up anything obvious. But what I will say is that all the players that typically are dabbling in crypto, they're also connected to Clover Health in one way or another. That's what I showed you in this video, and it's quite interesting. And just imagine, what if healthcare payments were made even faster with another crypto technology that made payment processing instantaneous and safe? Of course, I'm talking about the possible application of AMP in healthcare. The future? It's going to be wild. In this video, we went on a journey that created a soft dotted line for the cryptocurrency ANKR all the way to Clover Health Systems. There's no easily found information to indicate Clover Health is doing anything with ANKR. It's simply that there are some real human relationships that are connected in multiple ways here. ANKR in healthcare, Clover Health with crypto exposure. I can only say this for sure, and this is Unusual Due Diligence. I am your host, Poseidon, diving deep. Make waves, my friend.